Dr. King was a civil rights leader who revolutionized the movement and rallied troops everywhere to fight back with love instead of hate. Dr. King's determination and passion was able to change the course of America. He was a drum major for justice, a symbol of nonviolence, and a beacon for righteousness. His life was cut short, but he made a huge mark on our history, and his legacy will live on forever.
Dr. King was born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. His birth name was Michael King, which he later changed, just as his father did, to Martin, in honor of the German Protestant leader Martin Luther. Martin grew up in a loving household. He was taught as a child that no one was superior to him.
Martin's strong family foundation through the rearing of his mother and father paid off because he excelled exceptionally in school. Martin was so much more advanced than the rest of his peers that he skipped the 9th and 11th grade. Martin entered Morehouse College at the age of 15. He already had a religious background, so he took biblical classes to reaffirm his beliefs. Martin earned his sociology degree from Morehouse and attended the Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania.
Martin was accepted to many prestigious colleges, but he decided to attend Boston University to work on his doctorate. He then met Coretta Scott while he was at the University of Boston. They dated for a while and later married on June 18, 1953. The young couple had 4 children: Yolanda, Martin Luther III, Dexter, and Bernice. Martin finished his doctorate degree in 1955 at the age of 25.
There were many people who refused to give up their seat to white passengers long before Rosa Parks. One in particular was a young 15-year-old girl named Claudette Colvin. Claudette Colvin was determined to keep her seat on the bus, but she was later arrested and taken to jail. The NAACP had been waiting for the moment to make a case against the segregated bus policy. However, Claudette Colvin didn't fit the profile because she was a young, pregnant teen.
The NAACP got another chance when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in the first row of the color section. Rosa was also later arrested and taken to jail for violating the Montgomery City Code. This refusal was the spark that started the citywide bus boycott.
Dr. King was elected to lead the bus boycott because he was young and charismatic. Under his direction and leadership, King led the people of Montgomery to walk or carpool to their destination. This movement lasted 382 days, which crippled the city financially. After pleading their case that the city ordinance was unconstitutional, the city of Montgomery lifted the restraints. This decision was a major victory for Dr. King, the city of Montgomery, and people throughout the South.
Dr. King was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, and he was so impressed with Gandhi's principles that he made a commitment to approach all his efforts with nonviolence as Gandhi did. King's nonviolent philosophy helped shape the sit-in movements of the racially segregated South. His method began to gain nationwide attention.
Dr. King and the SCLC felt that racial tension was so vicious that a change must happen soon. Dr. King and the SCLC organized one of the most historical events of the 20th century on August 28, 1963, the March on Washington. Over 200,000 people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial to hear the famous speech, "I Have a Dream." There were many musicians and writers who performed at the event, such as Mahalia Jackson, Harry Belafonte, Lena Horne, Sammy Davis Jr., Bob Dylan, James Baldwin, Marlon Brando, and a list of other celebrities.
The success of the March on Washington gave Dr. King the fuel to take on the Jim Crow racial segregation laws in the South. This quest resulted in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which enforced desegregation.
Dr. King's efforts didn't go unnoticed. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, which had a monetary value of $54,600. Dr. King later donated the money to the civil rights movement.
Despite all the challenges of being jailed 30 times, death threats, having his home bombed, and being subjected to FBI surveillance 24 hours a day, and having his phone and home wiretapped, Dr. King never allowed anyone to discourage or turn his mission around.
Dr. King had many brushes with death. The first incident happened when he was 12 years old. He disobeyed his parents and went to a community parade when he was supposed to watch his little brother as instructed by his parents. Martin's little brother was sliding down a banister and knocked his grandmother unconscious. Soon after the accident, the grandmother suffered a fatal heart attack. The two incidents were unrelated, but Martin was devastated and felt guilty, which led him to attempt to jump from a two-story window.
Another incident in particular occurred on September 20th, 1958, at the Harlem bookstore. Dr. King had a book signing, and that is when a 42-year-old woman, Izola Curry, who suffered from a mental illness, yelled and stabbed Dr. King in his sternum with a letter opening. The stabbing was so severe that he needed emergency surgery to save his life. The doctor said that if Dr. King had sneezed just once, he would have died.
In 1974, Dr. King's mother was killed violently. Mrs. Alberta King and the deacon were shot and killed in their home church by a deranged gunman. The gunman was aiming for Dr. King Sr., but the bullet hit Mrs. Alberta King instead while she played the church's organ. The assailant, Marcus Wayne Chenault, received a life sentence for his heinous acts.
Many of King's nonviolent marches ended violently because the city police and agitators would sic their dogs, tear gas, throw rocks and bottles, attack and spray fire hoses on demonstrators. But the march from Selma to Montgomery was the most violent. This march was known as Bloody Sunday because many of the marchers were severely beaten and hospitalized. Fortunately, Dr. King did not attend the Bloody March. However, he vowed to return to Selma, which he did with his loyal followers. Dr. King instructed his followers to respond to the violence by turning their backs to the angry crowd and state troopers and kneel in prayer. This risky act led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
Dr. King accomplished a lot over the years, but his battle was not over. Dr. King was commissioned to lead a protest for the Memphis sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee. He was due to speak at the Mason Temple. Dr. King was under the weather, so he decided to stay at the motel to get some rest. His partners told him to stay back and they will greet the crowd and deliver the speech on his behalf. Hundreds came out in a severe thunderstorm to see Dr. King. The crowd in the temple was so full of energy, and the crowd was so anxious to see Dr. King that they started shouting his name. Dr. King's partners had no choice but to call him to the temple. He came to the temple and shook the crowd with his prophetic, electrifying speech. I've been to the mountaintop.
The promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Dr. King was struck down with an assassin's bullet in 1968 at the age of 39 as he stood on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel. The assassination of Dr. King ignited riots all across the country. Thousands, including political leaders, dignitaries, sports figures, and entertainers, came out to pay their last respect to Dr. King. Thousands watched as Dr. King's casket was processioned through the streets pulled by two mules. Many watched as Dr. King was laid to rest. The manhunt to find the assailant took 2 months. James O'Ray was convicted for the killing of Dr. King and sentenced to 99 years in prison. Although James O'Ray was charged with the crime, many feel that James O'Ray didn't act alone. which led to a conspiracy theory for the assassination of Dr. King.
Today, it's hard to imagine what it would be like, not having the right to vote, sit where you want on the bus, or living under laws that overtly and blatantly discriminated against you and your family because of the color of your skin. Believe it or not, the U.S. was once full of open and intense venom and hatred. Even though we made some progress, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Today, we stand on the shoulders of great warriors and freedom fighters. We bear the fruits of their labor. Dr. King's legacy will never die. We should never forget that he gave his life so that we will not have to endure the pain and suffering in the same way that we once had to endure. Dr. King's legacy lives on in all of us.
I come here tonight and plead with you. As I said to the group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennysonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with the pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't let anybody take your manhood. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. It's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.